Oh, it's a lovely touch from him, though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance. Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! There could be from
the dead to the
don't fuck it up now, don't fuck it up. Go and win it! Go and win it! Go and win it!
Let's go
Last chance! Stephen Berghvall! Stephen Berghvall's through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! Yes! He's won it! He has won it! Oh my God! Oh my God! We did it! Yo, check that out. Hey?
Some intro, eh, Sean? Some intro. I was up and down. I forgot where I was for a minute.
Well, you were harking back to the bygone days of wonderful moments in the Tottenham's relatively recent past, mate. A thing that feels a million years away after what we saw yesterday and for most of the season. And well, let's look. Hopefully, we've got better things to come in the next few weeks. And by God, this club needs it, mate. As we've said 1,000 times, sliding doors moments. How are you, Johnny? Good to see you, mate.
I'm very good. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. Loving the sunshine.
Macking the future shirt. I see.
Yeah. What do you think?
Want to give us a little twirl? Want to give us a little
little grey, little bit of bluey grey there. Thing on the front.
I'm just not sure about this badge in the middle thing, mate. I don't know.
Badge of honour, like that.
Yeah.
Much easier to kiss than dragging it from over here. Look.
100%.
It's all
mate,
easier.
Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Look, we got a lot to talk about.
Can I just say, right? Look, I decided I just couldn't face another trip to Liverpool yesterday. I feel like I let the travelling fans down by not going. But I just want to say big up to all the guys who went and supported the club yesterday. Big up to you all. You deserved a lot more. You know who you are. Disgraceful. And when I heard James Maddison say, shut out the noise, don't listen.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, it's on my list of things to talk
about. Big up to you guys for supporting them. I needed a day off because I've got the triple header of Bodo, West Ham, Bodo. That's enough for me to deal with.
Or as we like to say, Bodo, Bozo, Bodo, because West Ham are somehow managing to keep our league position slightly more respectable than it should have been after, well, they conceded 2 late goals yesterday to stay rooted at the 17th spot.
Yeah, they took us. They
yesterday, Saturday.
Yeah, Sunday, Saturday. I can't remember what it was. They put us in 17th place, scored a late goal, and somehow Harry Potter managed to produce the wrong magic spell, and Brighton seemed to score 2 goals in the last minute to win the game. I mean, what an avoid that was. We thought that ANGE was bad.
Well, I don't dislike Graham Potter, and I don't know. Like, I don't think a good manager becomes a bad manager overnight. One of the things I would agree with ANGE on is if you didn't like him yesterday, you shouldn't like him tomorrow. If you do like him yesterday, nothing should change because of the result. Yeah. I think a lot of fans right now are a little bit, certainly massively swinging towards, didn't think you were great yesterday, certainly won't tomorrow. So,
David Moyes, anyone? Look at the noise that they were giving for a guy who delivered them a trophy.
Yeah.
But he was winning games. Come on, like Moyes was winning games, but they didn't like how they were winning games. As a Spurs fan, I just want to win a game.
See, I don't. I do want to win a game, obviously, but I do want to do it in a fashion that is enjoyable. And look, this experiment hasn't been enjoyable for the most part, but that doesn't mean that we should. In fact, we're going to talk about this today because an example of what I'm about to say can be represented with a little bit of what ANGE, I think. And look, I've deliberately titled this video a little bit controversially. Sabotage is a strong word, but I think that there is a growing body of evidence to maybe suggest that the brilliant wordsmith that ANGE is maybe there's other versions of that brilliance that are starting to emerge in ways that I think are a little bit dark artsy. That is another methodology of his to be able to justify his prior mistakes. And we're going to talk about that when it comes to Archie Gray.
Is it? Sorry, I was just going to say, I didn't want to interrupt you there. Is it brilliance or just in arrogance to do what we're going to list in a minute? We discussed this earlier this morning about what you're going to discuss here. And I just wondered, on reflection, whether this was just an arrogant two fingers up to all the fans, basically.
Yeah, you can choose whichever word you want to describe it, but I guess the principal point is he utilizing mechanisms that essentially are throwing Tottenham's best interests under the bus in an effort to try to justify things that he's previously said, and mechanisms to kind of to find a storm any port will do.
I told you that's what he's doing in these examples that we're going to get. See, you wanted this, you cried out for these things. Yeah, I've given them to you, and guess what?
It didn't work. So shut up and let me get on with my job.
Correct. And we'll give him the examples. Well, Sean, why don't you give him the examples?
I will. But before I do this, we're going to run through and say hello to some people quickly. Guys, do me a favour. There's 300 people, give or take, across the socials. This is on Football Inc. We're back on Football Inc. If you're not a fan, if you're not a member yet, or sorry, a subscriber yet to Football Inc., then please, if you're not a fan, then don't do anything. But if you are here on Spurs Talk Show, please jump over to Football Inc. Link is in the description. Smash the subby over there. Hit the socials. You can see all the details in the little banner that's running across there. Football Inc., Sean Butler TV, Spurs Talk Show. Subscribe to those things. On Twitter, I'm on Spurs Talk Show. I'm not on socials, not on Insta, not on TikTok, but Johnny is. And then you can find him there at Talking Tottenham 1882 on Instagram and TikTok, and Johnny H3232 on Twitter. Before I quickly run through to the chat and say hello to you guys today, sponsors of the show are the wonderful people over at NordVPN. I've said this to you guys 1,000 times. You know what I'm going through in life. And had I known back 4 or 5 years ago what I know now around the necessity of cybersecurity that can be simplified for 80% of the journey by just getting yourself a brilliant VPN, tunnel your way from point A to point B. Don't give the bad guys the chance to intercept your traffic, intercept your data, your passwords, your credit card details, all of those things. VPNs are the way to do that, and NordVPN have more creative mechanisms within their body of work than a lot of the other guys do that are in that space. A brilliant offer is available at nordvpn.com/Spurs Talk Show. If cybersecurity isn't your concern, if you're not someone that works from home and you're doing your business work alongside your home stuff, if that's not your jive, it doesn't mean that VPNs are not valuable, because for the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can also use VPNs to be able to reposition yourself geographically into areas of the world where you can access, for example, 3 p.m. games that are not available in the UK on TV. You can put yourself over in Slovenia. You can put yourself in America, Australia, wherever you want. You can do the same mechanism to get hold of your Netflix content that's different, or any of the other streaming services that might be your choice. They show different programs in different areas of the world. So using VPNs can do that. And obviously from the stuff that we talk about here, how much does it cost us to get a hold of all of those games? Not that you can get hold of all of them anyway through the traditional mechanisms, but with VPNs you can. And NordVPN can simplify all of that stuff for you. The one big thing that I want to point out to you about VPNs doing that stuff is that a lot of those companies are smarting up. They're savvy. They know the IP addresses of the VPNs. So if you're using standardized VPNs, they're a little bit kind of basic in their offering, then those streaming services can kind of blacklist those IP addresses. NordVPN have more IP addresses on offer that are changing all the time that allow you to get around those blacklist things. So NordVPN is the way to go for as many different reasons you want, from cyber to content to privacy. It's all there. NordVPN.com/Spurs Talk Show gives you the best deal available, and it helps me continue to give you the content. If you're interested in that stuff, then please use that link. Appreciate NordVPN. Appreciate you all. Let's quickly move in and say hello to these guys before we get into it. Jason Hughes, do we have need to use this institution for fear of stigma from society? Philosophical way to start the show. Don't know what that means, Jason, but what institution? This institution is in Spurs Talk Show? Don't know. Either way, welcome to the show. He stitched him up a good one, says Kulu. Kulu's elusive right foot. Good to see you, mate. Not played for weeks, then finally gives him a start in midfield against Liverpool away. He was always on a hiding to nothing, 100%, especially when he picked the team that he picked around it. We'll talk about it in a second. If he played Bissouma and we got beat 5 or 6, the narrative would have been, why is he not giving Gray a chance instead of giving this waste man minutes? That's an interesting take and a fair point, Rich, and we will include that in our analysis. I'm actually going to star that one, buddy, because that's a really good take. Would the fan base be unhappy regardless? And I think there's probably some merit to that. Just because that's true, two things can both be true at the same time. Ange made such a big deal about signing. Anyway, you know what? I'm going to say hello to everyone. Joe, good to see you. Tom Martin, good to see you. Joey Regan, good to see you. PH family, Mr. Neutral, how's that acid alkaline levels going, mate? I hope you're okay. Joey, good to see you. Football Inc., that's me. That's Johnny, actually. Tottenham Hotspur till we die. Please like and subscribe to this great channel. Cheers, Dermatron. Also, thank you very much for your loyalty, my man. You're an absolute legend. Appreciate that loyalty. Big up, Sean. I'll be over for the Palace game. Good to see you, mate. I can't wait to see you, mate. I cannot wait to see you. I'll make sure I'm there. I was probably going to hang up my boots for the season before then. But if you're going to be there, mate, I will 100% get up there and come and have a drink with you. Keith Edwards, good to see you. Danny Boy, Andrew, Luke, Keith, good to see you all. Zeddy, Jordan, Keith again, Destiny. How you doing, guest Destiny? Moderator Ascensionale. Red Dixon, I think that is. God, that kit is awful, he says. Yeah, I've got to be honest. I like the colour scheme. I'm just not a fan of the centralised logo, but it is what it is. I don't know how you can really screw up white and lily white and navy blue.
No,
but
I'll change if you want. Look,
anyone that one. That's what we're talking about, mate. It's slimming as well.
Let me know, guys, if you want me to change to the all black.
If we put on the all black, then maybe that's representing Angie's funeral, which we probably, at least in Tottenham terms, might be manifested. Right, so this is why I'm not sure about the credibility of these shirts, mate. I can't believe Tottenham would choose the home kit and centralise the logo, and the away kit or the third kit put it on the side. I think you might have been done there, mate, but we'll find out.
Don't worry about me, mate. Been doing.
I don't worry about you, mate. You're a legend. You're never going to be.
Hey, listen, look, guys. This is a high quality, very expensive item. The two shirts combined cost me a grand total of £21. Okay. So I could order 8 of these, right? 8 of these, and still have change before I've walked into the cost of a Spurs shirt, covered the Spurs shirt. So 100%. Anyway,
money well spent. Druzilla, good to see you, buddy. Don't forget to like the and subscribe 100%. Simo, good to see you. Darren Johnson, member of the channel. Thank you very much for your ongoing support. MS3. Who else we got? Derek Hutchinson, good to see you. Patrick, good to see you. Afternoon all, just had some Harry Hotspur video come up and had to leave. So much moaning. Great to have some laughs, upbeat and lively chat. Results are bad, but the chat here is always great. We will find out about that one today as we start to bring up some conspiracy theories. Alan Adams, good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. Who else we got? Top Spurs, good to see you. Member of the show, Inner Hype. Dobby's dad, good to see you guys all. Kim, Giddy Hops. Goody, I'm gonna shoot through it, guys. We've got lots to talk about and not a lot of time, so we're gonna bounce through. Before we do, what a super chat! What a way to start the show, my man Blaine Devlin, you absolute legend. Big up, Sean and Johnny. And Postecoglou stirs controversy or controversy, depending on your flavour. Challenging the norms with bold tactics, which for me haven't worked. He is truly a polarising agent provocateur at Spurs. Johnny, you're nodding in agreement.
Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the support, and thanks to everyone out there who takes the time to come and listen to Sean and I arguing with each other, agreeing with each other, or having a laugh with each other. We're trying to keep it as light-headed as possible because these are, let's be honest, they're trying times. I don't remember a worse time as a Spurs fan, really, if I'm brutally honest. But I said to Sean, like before we always come on, as long as we can somehow, despite all this, have a laugh and take the piss out of ourselves, not you guys, obviously. Sometimes some of the comments. But yes, Angie's not the Messiah. So if you're going to post on here, Angie's the Messiah, you are going to be ridiculed by me. Okay?
Thank you so much, Blaine. You're an absolute legend, mate. You're keeping me going, mate, with these donations, buddy. Really appreciate you, mate. Really appreciate you. We've got another one for Destiny as well. Member for 7 months. Bugsy in. Appreciate you, Destiny, mate. Is that Romero? Who's that in the chat? Is that Romero and he's missing? No, was that you? Is that you, Destiny? I'm not sure if that is actually you. You're a good-looking man and a lovely lady next to you. If that's someone famous, I'm not familiar. Either way, good to see you, and thank you very much for the super chat. Good to see you. There you go. Blaine saying the black kit is banging. I think you got to change it, mate.
Yeah, I'll go and change it in a second. I've just to say thanks for Eamon Holes for sliding into my Instagram DMs.
Did he?
Yeah. And I like just some of the others guys. I mean, I did that post, North London Forever. I don't want to give too much about it, but it went a bit mental. And it got to the stage where I had about 3,500 comments, and I was no way I was going to go through all of them, nor could I. But I was looking this morning when I woke up, and there's all these blue tick guys who I've never even heard of, who my son said, "Oh, he's so-and-so, he's this rapper and that rapper." Unfortunately, they were all gooners. They were all gooners.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Just quickly, mate, what percentage of the comments, because obviously Instagram got the biggest reach for that, what percentage of them felt the way that you did versus what percentage felt the way that I did, that you were creating it was outrage over nothing?
I would say that 75-80% of Spurs fans were in agreement, and 100% of Arsenal fans were pissing themselves laughing. And it didn't actually matter. It didn't actually matter that the guy got splattered. Just the fact that they played their anthem in our stadium has made their week. You know, that's it. And most of them said if that was a reverse, they would have been equally pissed off.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous thing, mate.
Listen, I understand the red. Look, it's bad enough it was red the whole evening, right? This is Daniel Levy who said he wouldn't drive a red car, wouldn't have a red car in the car park.
Renting the stadium out, though, mate. We're just renting the stadium out.
No, I'm just saying. Look, Sean, right? Sean,
we won't get into it.
Listen, we won't get into it, but I just don't think it was necessary. Okay, that's. We'll leave it there.
Fair enough. Right, let's get into well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, shall we? 5-1. The team is changed fundamentally. Most of the squad, there's still some first teamers in there. Lucas Berghvall, arguably, I don't know why, whatever. Matisse Tell, Udogie, possibly still fighting, clamouring for their spot. But I think that given the fact that they played yesterday, you can make the assumption that unless Sonny's back, maybe Matisse Tell kicks his position. But I would imagine that means that Brennan Johnson's going to start on Thursday night. I would imagine that the fact
that... He started yesterday, sure.
No, Udogie started yesterday. Didn't he? Am I wrong? Johnson started yesterday, did he?
Well, I think he started yesterday. I didn't see him. I sent out.
You're right. Yeah, Johnson was useless. He was completely completely. Yeah,
sorry. Out a search party. I'm still waiting for someone to come back to me, see if they found him on the pitch.
So Tell started with Johnson. Yeah, Tell Johnson. There you go. There, thanks, guys.
Someone tell Johnson he has to get involved in the game.
What is your first team front line for Thursday night?
Listen, it doesn't matter. They've got 6 players missing. We will absolutely hump them on Thursday, regardless of how bad we are. They've got their 2 midfielders, their captain, their striker, their 2 centre-backs, and their left winger all out, okay? So even Ange can't swing this one. Mate! No, he can't. He can't. But listen, my front line would be Solanke, Tell, Udogie, I guess. With the
Solanke's header? The only positive from yesterday, Solanke's header?
That was a lovely header. Can't deny that, but he again went AWOL afterwards, but lovely header, terrific header. My midfield would be Bentancur, Kulu, and Berghvall. And James Maddison can sit on the bench because, yet again, as the captain yesterday, he was MIA. I mean, listen, let's fix the thing, right? Archie Gray, we're diversing here, right? Digressing, should I say?
That's fine. We're getting back onto the main topic in a minute.
The point here is that we've clamoured, Spurs fans have clamoured to see Archie Gray given his spot as a 6. This was something that Andrew's probably been asked 100 times. God knows how many times he's been asked. And this was 2 fingers up to all of the fans. He threw Archie Gray into that game, into that Inferno game, surrounded by James Maddison, who ain't going to be doing any tackling, and Berghvall. And they just passed round him. They threw him, Ange Postecoglou threw him under the bus. He threw him to the Lions. And at half time, he dragged him off to say, you wanted that, you got that, and look what happened. Meanwhile, he changed it up in the second half, and guess what? Nothing changed. But it was his statement that, if he wanted to give that kid some protection, he should have been putting Bissouma on by the side of him to at least have some strength around him, because they knew with McAllister and the like in the midfield, we were going to and SABOTAGE, we were going to struggle in the middle of the park, especially with a kid like that. They just passed around him. Even Berghvall looked lost in that.
Worst performance I've seen from him.
Yeah,
worst performance from Archie Gray. Worst performance from Berghvall I've seen, and I've got a high standard now for Berghvall because I like him so much.
Yeah.
Destiny Udogie wasn't interested in the second half. He was just like, let's just get this game over with. I mean, if you were going to play Kevin Danso in either of the games before Bodo, you played him in the Nottingham Forest game. We spoke about this last week, right? Like madness. If you wanted to get anything out of the game against Liverpool, you need to put on some pace. So Micky van der Ven shouldn't have played against Forest, and maybe could have had 45 minutes. But I understand the logic in not playing him. I get it. But for me, before we get onto the specifics of the SABOTAGE, the overriding narrative is terrifying. Because let's be honest, whatever happens in the UEFA Cup, it's a moment in time. And if we win it, we're playing more teams that are similar to Liverpool next season in Europe than we are that are more similar to like a Forest or whoever. Insert whatever team you like there. And we didn't learn anything from the previous game when we went to Liverpool in the Cup. The same things happened, pretty much the same scoreline, and pretty much the same demonstrations of a midfield that just gets absolutely bossed by. Yes, they are the best team in the world. I don't think it would have mattered if you played Decky and Berghvall and you played your best 11. We would have been bossed yesterday regardless, because their midfield is incredible, and our midfield, he doesn't even know what his best midfield is.
It would have been endeavour. Ipswich would have played that game, and yes, they would have lost, but at least they would have had some endeavour. Right, there was nothing there. Look, this isn't Mr. Hindsight, as Ange likes to call us people who are calling him out for his tactics. I've been Mr. Hindsight for over a year now, apparently, according to him. But when he signed, I said, you know what, this guy can't play in Europe. His record in Europe is shambolic. This is a guy that lost 5-1 to Bodo Glimt over the two legs. He doesn't have a great record. He hasn't beaten anyone of note in the Europa League. We struggled against Roma. We struggled against Rangers. We got beaten by Galatasaray. Those were the hard games. I mean, we beat 10-man AZ Alkmaar at home with a penalty. We lost to AZ away. It hasn't been a remarkable performance, other than, in all fairness, the gutsy display against Frankfurt the other week. But I just think that what he's doing now, Sean, going back to the self-sabotage, it's like when we asked for why doesn't he play three at the back when he signed Dragusin, and then when he signed Danso, why does he play three at the back? And what does he do? He plays three at the back against Everton in the first half with a makeshift team, with half the players missing. We got absolutely trounced. He goes, there you go. You wanted a back three. I gave you a back three, and look what happened.
Now shut up and let me get on with my job. And you know what? It's only after the fact that I realised that it was a load of horse shit, and I started to get suspicious about this man's spin. The Shane Warne of Tottenham managers, right? Or managers generally, because it was after the fact when he was challenged on a separate issue about injuries coming from training and how responsible he is for that. And he opened himself up like a can of baked beans when he said, it's not my fault. We don't get injuries. Injuries are not my fault. We don't train anymore. Okay. Since when? Since October or whatever he said, because of the injuries and because of European football. Okay. So if that's the case, bearing in mind that it was back in October that you were saying, I don't care about the defeats in isolation. Right now, it's about implementing the message, the same message that's failed to land for 18 months, right? I said, then, if you ain't got the message across in 18 months, there's something wrong with the message, bro. And 2 months later, 3 months later, you say, or no, it would have been 4 months later. It was before, it was around the Aston Villa game. He said this thing. He said, the injury's not my fault because we don't train anymore. Okay, so if you don't train anymore, then why are we playing tactics that you haven't prepared for? If you are experimenting in real time, that is massively problematic. And you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Two things can't be true. Either the back three was an experiment that you weren't prepared for, or you're lying about the injuries because you don't train. Right? So two things can't be true. And now I'm like, hang about, radar, bullshit radar. Let's think about other things, right? Let's be honest, mate. He stumbled into Lucas Berghvall because he had no other choice because of injuries. He was asked why Jed Spence wasn't playing. He finally throws Jed Spence in, and Jed Spence proved him wrong, smashed it out of the park, and then he has the audacity to sit there and say,
"Aim it.
It was all part of my grandmaster plan," right?
Yeah, a load of shite.
Which didn't stand up to the sniff test from a million miles away. Bugsy Malone would have smelt that bullshit from 100 miles, right? And then you go, okay, so there's bullshit galore. What else has happened?
Well, listen, I'll give you another one. Sean.
There's loads, by the way.
The fall off last season. Oh, the reason why we've not had enough games. We've not had enough games, and that's why our form's dropped off, because I haven't been able to get my message across. Well, hang on. If you've not had enough games, surely you've got loads of time on the training game. We only played 41 games, our lowest amount of games for 16 years, because we got knocked out of everything. Then in the summer says, I'm very happy with my squad, and I feel like this squad is perfect and exactly right for what lies ahead.
Which is a league challenge, a league title challenge.
And I've got the right squad to cope with Europe and the league. Then later on, towards the Christmas, he's turning around and saying, we've had too many games. We didn't have enough squad. We didn't have enough players. I can't take this guy seriously, right? We don't practice set pieces. Maybe that's why we were 3-0 down against Arsenal. All from set pieces.
We don't worry about the opposition. We play our way. Okay, that's a little bit silly.
Yeah, we don't look at their tactics. We concentrate on ourselves. And how about when asked, what does this North London derby mean to you? It doesn't mean anything to me, because every game means something to me. Yet when we lost, he got the arse when we lost to Man City last season, because. Where was that care when we were playing Arsenal? There was no care about that, but yet he gets upset.
To be fair, I agree with him on the "you're asking me to lose a game" bullshit. Right?
No, it wasn't just that, though, Shawnee.
No, I know, no, but on that specific point, I subscribe to. I'm sharing this. When we spoke about this morning, I said to you, this Archie Gray thing. It stinks of what happened with Jed Spence. It stinks of what happened with the back three. It stinks of him doing the spin. But it doesn't stand up to the sniff test when you add all these things up. Once, coincidence. Twice, problem. 3 times, fool me again, mate, and I will fucking smash you in the face. And I'm sick to death of the spin, because to me, I 100% think that Archie Gray got thrown to the wolves yesterday, thrown under the bus. It wasn't we'll throw you in at the deep end. It was this is going to be shit show. He knew yesterday was going to be a shit. We all knew it was going to be a shit show. We all knew it was going to be a 4-0.
It didn't need to be that much of a shit show.
Correct. And it's not about the outcome. It's not about the result. It's about the effort and the performance and the way it was set up and structured. Nothing changed from the previous game. Nothing changed from the Liverpool game in January, February, whenever it was. Right? Same problems. Same just carving through us like the parting of the fucking Dead Sea. Or Red Sea. What sea is it that got parted by Moses?
The Red Sea.
The Red Sea. It's outrageous that we haven't. You can't look and see any. You could just put one screen up there and one screen there of both games being played, and it'd be difficult to tell the difference. Both of them were just shocking.
But the contradiction, you could have a screen. You could have one screen where he says, so what do you think, Andy? Are you under stress? No. None of this bothers me. Yeah. Me, I don't care. I'll get another job. I don't care. And then what's happened, right? He's confronting a fan, right? For saying that was a pile of shit, right? Someone putting a phone up, right? Like that. Well, people put the phones up all the time. You weren't you didn't have a problem with people putting the phone up when everyone was singing Ange Postecoglou and you were everybody's mate and chum. But the contradictions, the constant contradictions between what he says and what he does, how he is and how he reacts, then he talks the talk and doesn't walk the walk. He has a philosophy. He spews a philosophy, but he doesn't abide by his own philosophy and talk. He's a contradiction to everything. He's a walking contradiction to everything he stands for and says. And that's why, even the staunch fans now, I've noticed after the weekend, have been dropping in to me and saying, you know what, even I've had enough now.
Yeah. I mean, it's... I've got a video somewhere. I'm going to try and see if I can upload it in the stream here of all of the different fan moments where he's in interactions with just this season. Right. And it's just like 7 or 8 different video clips of him like getting pissed off. And then later on saying, it doesn't bother me, mate. It doesn't bother me what you say. It doesn't bother me what they do. Nothing bothers me. It's like Ross in Friends when he's like, I'm fine. When Rachel starts going out with Joey, I'm fine. It's fine. My best friend and my ex-girlfriend. I'm fine.
He protests too much.
Yeah, exactly. He doth protest too much, 100%. But to me, throwing Archie Gray under the bus, there's potential ramifications from that. I genuinely hope that that kid doesn't wake up today feeling like he let himself down. I mean, to be entirely honest, it wasn't just the open play stuff that was messy. He had a shocker, but then everyone did. The second goal, he just dribbled the ball out in his own box and then just got walked past by Gravenberch.
What about Tell's pass? I mean,
look, just shocking all round. But I hope that Ange can dust himself. I hope that Archie can dust it off and put it down to like a learning experience, because I think he's going to be a monster for us. But yesterday was a men versus boys experiment across the teams and also in individual players. But I think that Ange, I do genuinely believe that Ange is potentially, whether like consciously or otherwise, utilizing mechanisms to defend himself and justify his actions that do not just start and finish with him defending himself in a press conference. These are other examples of it that I think are a bit poisonous. And that to me is unacceptable. And it makes me like, I still think you can't sack him now. I still think that there's no point. Nothing you can do about it. You are where you are. But those sorts of things, if there's truth to it, and obviously we're speculating, we can't pretend to get into the mind of Ange. We can find evidence and we'll continue to keep an eye out for more of it. But like that sort of behavior to me, the more I think about it, the more I like, this guy is out for himself and he's unwilling to, in reality, like he's very good at kind of like, yeah, it's on me, it's unacceptable, says all the things you want to hear. I've said this a million times. He's like a salesman that I've had many, many interactions with in my life in different continents that tell you, next time I'll change, boss. And yeah, you're right, boss. I've not been good enough. I need to do more. I won't let you down. And then the same shit happens over and over again, and nothing really changes. And you become a little bit thick-skinned to the bullshit after a while. And I think he is a bullshit artist of the highest degree. And it really does. I still stand by the notion that I think on meritocracy, like I don't want him to be here next season, Johnny. I don't. I want him to win us the cup and then fall on his sword is what I want. That won't happen.
Well, I hope so. Because I do fear a Ten Hag situation. I've said this for weeks now. I'd still believe that we're going to the final. Nothing's going to shake me from it. I really do. United, they'll be scouting. They'll be used to playing. Both teams now will have an advantage over us in the final. Manchester United, having played there in the game, surely, don't you think they would have had the advantage over us?
Who?
Man United. Should Man United beat Bilbao, having already?
No, I don't.
Having already played, there's definitely an advantage having experienced the stadium and the atmosphere.
What stadium?
Bilbao. That's where Man United will be. They'll be going back to the.
I see what you mean. On that. Sorry, I thought you meant would Man United have the advantage over us? No.
Going back to the stadium, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that is an element. But for me, I look at the two teams and I think Man United and Tottenham are both absolutely pitiful at the moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely on their knees. Bilbao are not. Bilbao are a good team playing to their level. We have a better team on paper than they do. United have probably a better team than Bilbao do on paper, but both teams are well beneath their standards because they're just in the pits. But these people that are saying I'd rather play Bilbao in the final than Manchester United because Manchester United have a way of getting it done in the final because they're a cup team. I understand that. That is true. It is true. But Tottenham have beaten United 3 times this season, and playing Bilbao at home in the final, to me, I think that Tottenham have a better chance against United than they do against Bilbao.
Listen, I think it will be a tough final. I have every hope. No, I have every belief, not even hope, that with Bodo missing 5 or 6 players, that we will smash them on Thursday, and you and I will fly to Norway, get some whaling done, and then go on to the game and watch us probably lose. But go
Mate,
for it.
I don't know how to feel about the away leg. Half of me is like, I'd love it if we just put the game to bed at Tottenham, right? 5-0, and we just go there and have a party, right? Good times. But the other half of me wants, when you're paying as much money as we're paying, wants there to be some element of jeopardy, you know?
Yeah,
I don't want that much jeopardy. I want that much jeopardy that we could actually fuck it up, because it would be so Spursy to go and win 2-0 and then lose 3-0 in.
I'm a bit worried though, Sean, that we're going to go out there, you're going to get pissed up and end up coming back with an Eskimo.
Yeah, rather than a score.
Hey.
Take your clothes off, mate. Yeah. He's wearing a fucking like a seal jacket or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, nice one. By the way, I'm only jesting people about my my prologue. I don't really go and spend all my money, only half of it, on those sorts of endeavours. Super chat from Destiny saying, Sean, I timed Daniel 90 by accident. Please fix it. If you only timed, did you block him or time him out? If you blocked him, then I'll have to go and fix it. If you timed him out, he'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah, no worries, mate. These things happen. You're new to the mod game. It's fine. I understand. Just quickly, WG Spurs N22. Sean Butler, I agree with your stance that he should stay, but if you're so driven by meritocracy, why are you so staunchly pro-Levy then? He has failed for a quarter of a century. I'm not staunchly pro anything, mate. I'm not staunchly pro anything, buddy. I just represent the other side of the debate, largely because I don't think people understand some of the areas of his remit, his mandate, that, you know, I've had a career in, so I can help bring light into those topics. And I also think that he's wildly misrepresented by, you know, certain things. Johnny, I know how you feel about Daniel Levy, but like I say, that whole thing the other night, right? 22,000 people liked Johnny's post that I fundamentally thought Johnny was being a bit of an outrage merchant over. I know he disagrees with me on that, and that's fine. That's what makes
36,000 actually now, Shawnee.
36,000, fair enough.
2.3 million people.
I think those things are like, there's plenty of sticks to beat Daniel Levy with, but I think that's a silly one. And I think that a lot of the time, Daniel Levy, I don't care if you hate Daniel Levy or love Daniel Levy or anywhere in between. What I find myself doing is debating the argument, because I find that most of the time, the people that feel violently the other way, when I see them on shows, I think that they are logically inconsistent in how they get there. And that's what I challenge. I challenge Ricky Sachs and his guys on that show over there. I've challenged everyone. I've challenged everyone. I've debated most people on that topic. And it's usually where I find people being inconsistent is when they say the buck stops at the top. And I say, okay, then, so if the buck stops at the top, if we win the Europa League, then that is Daniel Levy's praise, right? And they say, no, that's luck. You can't allocate fortune where you see fit to make your narrative work. It's either all is good or all is bad. If the buck stops at the top, you can't cherry pick how that works. Logically, that doesn't work that way. And that's what I challenge. I don't challenge whether Levy is good or bad. I challenge how you get there. And also, I just think it makes good content, you know.
What do you think of the news today, Sean, coming out that due to the current situation and the fact that Ange Postecoglou has driven us into the ground, and we're going to finish sort of 16th place around that position, that the club are not going to have any money for transfers, and we're going to have to sell players to provide finance for the transfer window?
Yeah, well, there's a few misnomers in his art. I haven't read the whole article. I've read the quotes. But there's a few misnomers, like he's saying, which is crazy considering we're £200 million away from FFP. Actually, the closer threshold is the 70% ratio, assuming we were to get into Europe, the 70% threshold, because we're 15% away from that on last year's numbers. That equates to £80 million based on last year's revenue. And so £80 million is the threshold away, not £200 million. And that £80 million has to include transfers and the salary difference.
There's definitely wriggle room, Sean, in the
there is.
The 70 million
not
lot,
as much as people say that there is.
There's enough there. I've looked at two respected people to say that there is enough money there. But what I'm saying is the wiggle room is not to do with the same thing as actually having the money tucked away. The 70 million a year that they're putting down as a loss for the stadium amortization is another thing that can be questioned. But look, as we saw the other day when you posted the was it 16 companies now? I've forgotten. Was it 16?
13 companies, I think.
13 subsidiary companies there. There's money tucked away in all of these, but is that for paying off debts, running the business, the women's team, and all the staff?
Who knows, mate? Only 10% of those companies are going to be audited externally, and 3 of those companies don't actually report how much cash they have. And those 3 companies, one of them is the hotel company,
right?
And one of them is that one that we saw at the bottom that we didn't know what it was for. The development thing, yeah. Company, yeah. So, like, it could be far more than that, or it could be less than that. But it could be far more than that.
But to spin to us, you know, having wasted so much money, you know, we're talking about 50 million for Tel. Now, this is why I said to you, if we're in a situation where Daniel's going to come out and say we don't have any money, we have to sell to buy, I'm not interested in selling a whole load of players to buy Matthias Tel. We need a 6 more than we need Matthias Tel. We need a proper quality left centre back in case Micky van der Ven gets injured. We need another quality challenger for James Maddison because he's going to be injured 35-40% of the season. I would take Jamie Donnelly back personally, because if you see how sweet his left foot is, I mean, how he played against Wickham on the weekend there, whipping those balls in. Solanke and Richalison would have had wet dreams about those balls. So, you know, I think there's options, but I just think to myself, you know, he's preparing us. Is he preparing us to not spend any money again and say it is what it is?
Can't get away with it, mate. You know, we're talking about sliding doors moments for the last.
You said this, Sean. Sorry, just to finish off there, right? Just to say, because you said this summer you believe that there will be no excuse for him not to spend money. I remember you saying this.
If we win the Europa League, there'll be no excuse to. I believe that we will see a new club's highest earner, and a new club transfer record.
Yeah,
and I think that will happen anyway. I still think that will happen. I think Romero leaves, and I think we go and buy Mark Gahey. I think Mark Gahey will hold out, or Crystal Palace will hold out for about. Even though I don't think it's justifiable, I think they'll hold out for 70. The guy's got a year left on his contract. I don't think, you know, if Harry Kane's worth 100 with a year left, Mark Gahey's not worth 70. Let's be honest, right? But you know, there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that will be sniffing around. And I think that Daniel Levy might screw that one up. But if you do sell Romero, you have to go and replace him with a monster. Because I don't think Dragason's there. I don't think Danzo's good enough to be starting centre-back, especially if we continue in the same vein of a high-line approach to football, regardless of who the manager is. I would really hope that the next manager that comes in, assuming Ange goes, that there's a little bit more contemplation, a little bit more consideration around, you know, who you're playing against, and that there's a bit more horses for courses, and you sometimes you do high, sometimes you do mixed, sometimes you do like whatever. I'm okay with all that adaptation stuff, but either way, as much as I like Kevin Danso, I haven't seen anything from Dragusin to give me super confidence. So I do think you need to go again if you sell Romero. I still think you've got too many centre backs, but most of that excess is in young, untested players. So I do stand by that, especially if you win the Europa League. I think that I stand by that.
What if we don't? If we don't win it,
yeah.
Do you? I mean, look,
If we don't win it, the only way we get a new club record transfer is if you sell Romero and you replace him with another centre back of like.
Interesting
sort of
thing is the with £3 million a position in the Premier League, us finishing 15th or 14th as opposed to 17th is £9 million. It's all important. Even if we won the Europa League, that wouldn't even negate us. That wouldn't make up for us, I don't think, even finishing in the top 8. I don't think. What does it work out? About £20 million for winning it?
In prize money, at direct prize money.
Yeah.
Yeah, like less money than what we're losing out on the places from where we finished last season.
Correct.
By quite a significant way. But obviously there's, how many more games have we played? How much more money? Like Thursday night, the amount of money the club will make in beer sales and merchandise, all that, it would probably be, there'll probably be a big night down the club.
Yeah.
And obviously broadcast money and all that stuff as well, right? So, and sponsorship deals and all those things. There's obviously costs associated with putting on the events though, right? So it's not all pure profit, it's just revenue. But I like, the numbers to me, where I got to my number was that there's £80 million wiggle room to the lower threshold of the European UEFA coefficient. Obviously, I might be very wrong about that, depending on. I'm just saying that there is that ability to spend. There is the cash that's floating around in the background that could be manipulated. Daniel Levy has to get on board at some point some clever accounting. He's already doing clever accounting, by the way. If he's hiding £260 million in 12 other companies, of which only 1 or 2 of them are going to be externally audited, he's already doing the clever accounting, but he's doing it for his best interests, not for Tottenham's, right?
Yeah,
so, like, I want to start to see some clever accounting that actually we are the beneficiary of as the fans of the football club.
It could be more money. No one knows. No one knows. What we do know is there's £30 million in interest payments to be paid every year, okay, on the stadium debt. So that ain't going away.
Yeah. Something else that isn't going away is my frustration with James Maddison, Johnny boy. Let's talk about that, right? So, I haven't got the quote in front of me. It is a disgrace, Matt. He's an assistant, a vice captain of the football club. And to my knowledge, he is the only one who hasn't come out and defended ANGE all season. He's the guy who was caught on camera. Obviously, he didn't know he was being watched at the time, but it's been sort of shown around social media, of which he is very frequents a lot. So he's aware of the fact that, that everyone knows that he said it's the same fucking thing every week, right? You'd think that he should be a little bit more cognizant of what he says, where he says it, the context in which it can be taken out of or taken into, and the fact that for all intents and purposes, he hasn't had a great season. I think he's been really weak. Yes, he's had decent output, but just like Brennan Johnson, output and input are not the same things. And for me, when he turns around and says things like, I'm really happy with my output, but the team isn't good enough, that's a bus throwing exercise. And when he says things like,
you're the fucking captain, especially when you're the vice captain.
You're the vice captain. And when you don't get, as a fan, much access to voices from the club. You get 2 pissy press conferences a week from Ange Postecoglou, who spends most of the time talking out of both sides of his mouth or defending himself or having arguments with sulky, pissy shit. Yeah. You get nothing from Johan Lang. You've never had anything from Scott Munn, and you get sweet FA from anybody else, from Daniel or anybody else. All you get on the other side of that is a few players that have come out in various interviews. You've got another vice captain who's twerking for Spain in an interview on the training ground, by the way, which I can't believe.
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, that Sean Butler is, in fact, secretly Levy out.
No, but I'm Levy. Figure it out, bro.
No. Look,
figure it out. Read the room, man.
Turn up. You don't turn up. That first half against Liverpool, right? He let Archie Gray die on his feet, right? He wasn't there to help him in any shape, way, or form, right? He was MIA, right? Had to send a search party out for him. He was gone. He was nowhere in that game. Couple of fleeting moments. If he spent less time falling on the ground, arguing with referees, trying to win a free kick, and stayed on his feet, it might be is great. I mean, there's a reason why the Leicester fans called him 33 1/3. That is 33.33% playing great, 33.33% injured, and 33.33% trying to come back from injury. Yes, he got a 20-goal GA this season, which is a massive improvement on last season, but a game's about 90 minutes. You know, I get into trouble with my kids.
It's also about teamwork, mate.
Yeah.
Teamwork. And he doesn't do anything for the team. You don't see him. And you know he's capable. You know he's capable because against Manchester City, when we went and played 1-4-0, which was an incredible, it was obviously Man City, well, that was the start of their shit show, but we put in an absolute beast of a team effort that day. And he got back, and I remember applauding him, going out of my way to say, I'll give you a hard time. I'll hold you to good standards because I know you've got it in you. Today, you were sensational, right? You were awesome. You got back, you sat in front of that back four, you worked for the ball, you came deep, you spread it, you did everything you could with the ball, and it was great. And off the ball, you were great. Well done. Ever since then, Geezer is he's a show pony in a system that I don't like, but a system that is about workhorses. And he saying what he said yesterday pissed me off more than the performance.
Yeah,
saying
shut out the noise to the fans.
They can say what they want, but we've got to shut up, ignore that shit and focus on Thursday. Even if that's true, you say that to your teammates in the dressing room. You don't come out in the camera and say that shit. It's dismissive, it's disrespectful, and it is not in any way, shape, or form emblematic of a vice captain of a football club. It's outrageous behaviour. It
is. Listen, at Fulham away, he was on the such line. He was dropped with Sonny, and I shot that video, if you remember it, where the two of them were like two kids in a playground. You had the Peter Crouch lookalike guy in the background trying to give him instructions. None of them were listening. They were pushing each other over, laughing and joking. And I was saying, what sort of attitude is this? We're losing game after game. And you got the captain and the vice captain pissing around on the sideline. What sort of example does that? There was no professionalism about it. A guy gave me into trouble for it. He said, oh, you're looking for shit. But he found me as I was coming out the stadium after we got beaten. He said, you know what, you're right. And he goes from that. And then suddenly James Maddison's a hero for taking a punch in the head against Frankfurt when he came out and got clobbered because
he was brave. He was brave. He was brave in that moment.
He was brave.
Yeah.
He was brave, but you know, he wasn't doing much before he got taken out.
Honestly, mate, I've got no issues if you want to sell him. You want to raise money, you want to find that 100 million, 200 million pound. Romero wants to go, sayonara. If James Maddison wants to go, I don't want people that are here for themselves. I want people that respect the fact. The only reason, mate, that you get paid 100 grand a week and you drive around in a Ferrari and you can go to the darts and everyone gives you a good time. Everyone says hello to you and says, you know, you're amazing, you're a legend. The only reason you've got a 10 out of 10 bird noshing you off every night is because of us. Because without us, you don't get paid that money because every penny that you have comes from fans. So how about a little bit of respect? You're the vice captain of the football club. And then you've got the other vice captain who's sitting on the training ground telling a Spanish reporter, Spain's where I need to be. Like, go to Spain, but not in May. You're not on that basis, mate. You better put in a worldie against Bodo. You better no excuses. And only then I'll accept it because I don't like this. I don't like this. And you know what? The other leader we got to talk about, by the way, is Vicario, the fourth vice captain. What's going on with him, Johnny?
I think it's like a virus that's spread throughout the team. I mean, I don't mind losing. I've said this 1,000 times, right? I go to away games and I see us capitulate. I see us try to come back. I don't mind defeats as long as I can walk out that ground and say, you know what? We tried our best. We gave it our all. I haven't seen that for such a long time. Frankfurt was the only example of that. And I said before the game, I believe we were going to win that game because the players would self-motivate because of the enormity of this situation and the occasion and the chance of glory and to play on the big stage in front of the lights and the cameras and the chance to put yourself in the shop window for a big summer move. And I think that's what's going to get us to the final. And I'd like to think that the experience of a James Maddison, Heung Min Song, Kuti Romero, Bentancur in World Cups and massive tournaments is what's going to carry us to victory in the summer. Not Ange Postecoglou's tactics, not Ange Postecoglou's team talks. Because what I'd like to know is, we were played before Ange turned up. Do you remember they were playing his pre-match conversation to motivate the Australians before their games in the whatever tournament that was? I can't remember.
Yeah. It was the World Cup. It was before the World Cup. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Every game, when you go to Tottenham, they come out like they've been slipped a sedative. It's the other team. It's the other team that comes out fired up. You know, I watch Arsenal, right? They play that fucking tune, right? North London, we need to get a new tune, right? Because that fires up the crowd. But those players, Arteta has those players coming out of those blocks like you know, Linford Christie or what's his name? The Jamaican Usain Bolt. They are out there ready to fight. Okay, like Ben was, like Conor Ben was the other night, come out all guns blazing. We come out like, honestly, like asleep. We're 1 down, we're 2 down. Oh, we better start playing now. What is he saying?
Under Conte, though, we were second half FC, weren't we?
Yeah, but you can believe, and see on the touchline that when he's not going right, you go and look at Conte on the sideline. Yeah. And he's going mental. He's pulling them over. Look,
this the team. Why are you not the player?
Yeah. Whereas Ange, we're 2-0 down. The players walk to the bench and he ignores them. The only person
he's kicking the floor like he's just been turned down by
Wells or Jedinak or Mason are the only ones that talk to him. He's like, don't talk to me. Don't ask me. Don't ask me any questions about why we're not playing well. I'm only the manager.
Well, you know what, though, mate? We do not overly criticise, rightly criticise Ange, but the players do need to kick up the arse themselves, mate. They are not robots.
He's the motivator.
I know he is. I know he is, mate. But when you're paid $100,000 a week, the fact that you're playing in front of 60,000 people every single or every other week, and that your performance is going to be shown around the world on billions of TVs or in front of billions of people, take a little bit more respect in your own effort. You shouldn't need to have a kick up the backside. You should be, I don't know, cherishing every second that you have as a young man who gets to kick a ball around to earn a fortune. It shouldn't be that difficult to motivate yourself, let alone rely on other people to say the right words to get you to step up, stand up and be counted. And what I would say, mate, just quickly, is there is a problem in this football club. And yes, the buck stops at the top for this one. So yes, Daniel Levy is responsible for the culture that seems to be falling away at the moment. And we will see. If we win the Europa League, maybe all of that grey cloud puffs and disappears. Maybe not. Maybe the indelible mark of success on young minds and the psyches of these young players can manifest into something meaningful next season. That is an unknown that we can't rely on. But for me, on the pitch, in terms of the stuff that we see and have access to, because we don't know Daniel Levy's day-to-day, and I do want to come on to that question that I posed to John yesterday, and I want to ask you as well, make this question in a minute. But when you look at Sonny, who is not a leader of men, he's a wonderful player who's going through a tough season, but he is not a captain, right? He's too likable, smiley, and, kind of, childish a little bit. Difficult. That's not the right word I'm looking for, but you understand what the point I'm making. Romero's twerking for another club mid-season. Maddison, who's basically Mimi roadrunner and completely missing the point. Vicario, who blames his defence when he's got absolutely no confidence and is making me quake in my pants almost as bad as when Fraser Forster went through that blip in January. There is absolutely nothing to write home about the leadership in this squad, about the senior players. How are these young players supposed to step up and be counted for like they have this year, for the most part, when the senior players in senior positions of leadership either couldn't give a fuck or can't step up, stand up and be counted? It's problematic across the board on the pitch as much as it is off the pitch, mate.
You know what, Sean? And I'll say it again, and I said it beforehand. This isn't Mr. Hindsight, right? As Ange likes to refer to it. I said before the Frankfurt game, is no coincidence that the 2 games against Frankfurt we were unrecognisable compared to all the other games. And isn't it funny? As soon as the other games came, we've reverted back to type. I can guarantee you on Thursday and against Bodo, we will turn up and we will look a different team, because it's about self-motivation. It's about what's in it for them, a chance of immortality as a Spurs legend.
Which they will become, some of them.
Well, of course they will. They'll be able to come back here in 20 years' time or 30 years' time when their careers are out and show people around on the Spurs tour saying, I was there.
Not just the Spurs tour, mate. They'll get the media gigs. You know? How many people get the media gigs unless they've won something in their career? Not many. Some of the people that have lifted the league trophy or the League Cup in 1998. Okay, we'll roll him out when his former team's playing on TV.
I was with Graham Roberts coming out Chelsea away this season, and I saw him as I come out, and I shook my head. I said, "I'm a Spurs fan." He goes, "Oh no." I shook my head. We were in the Chelsea corporate thing. And he shook his head, and I shook my head, and I said, it's just shambolic. There's no fight. There's no heart. There's no passion. There's no love for that badge. I said, you know what? I wish you were out there last night, because you were everything this club stood for, right? He died for that shirt and for that badge. And that's what we don't have right now. We don't have players like that in this current squad.
I'm going to do a little bit of name dropping, mate. It reminds me of that time when I sat in the Tunnel Club next to Gus Poyet and Chrissy Houghton. And I spoke to those two, sat between the two of them for the entire 90 minutes. And we were having a conversation about against West Ham, the game that we ended up losing. I said, Gussie boy, Chrissy boy, if you guys were out there, this wouldn't have happened. And I felt a little bit cringy for saying it, but they appreciated the compliment.
Well, Chris Hughton, he would go into a 40-60 tackle.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what we need, mate. That's what you need. Sonny is I know, listen, Sonny got rightly chastised. I remember, I think it was against Manchester United. Was it last season or the season before? He was rightly chastised for pussying out of a 50-50 header a couple of weeks beforehand. And everyone was like, Sonny, mate, you got to be braver there, bro. And then I think he obviously got to him, because in the Man United game, he went into a 50-50 header and then ended up heading the shoulder, I think it was Fernandez or Hernandez, whoever it was, and he almost knocked himself out. We haven't got enough courage in the team, and where we do have courage, it bleeds over into stupidity sometimes with the likes of Romero. But we haven't got enough leaders, mate, and that's why this moment in time. We've been saying it forever. What's going to happen in the next 4 weeks, or the next 2 weeks, really, is so important for Tottenham fans, for the finances, for the ability to go again, for Ange's reputation, for everything, for the players, the indelible marks. But
for our booking in Bilbao.
We are booking it for for the brasses in Bodo, for the brasses in Bilbao. You know, there's a lot riding on this. But on top of that, more important than anyone else's, the pressure, Daniel Levy needs this more than anything else. Because if this turns into success, I think a lot of, at least in the short term, a lot of the Johnny-come-latelys to the Levy out, which has changed for Tottenham's rebranding, a lot of the Johnny-come-latelys walk back across the aisle, right, and go, I got what I wanted. The hardcore guys are going to be there anyway, because that's their thing. But a lot of the people that are the Johnny-come-latelys to the Levy out, they wander back across. Pressure's off Levy, right? Gets a reprieve, gets the money, can get a new manager, can go again. If he fails, if Tottenham fail against Bodo, then it's more than a sliding doors moment. It's a crater that I think Daniel Levy will struggle to recover from, whatever happens next season.
There's never been a bigger moment in about 25 years, in my opinion, because if we do not win this trophy, we are going to struggle to get back in anytime soon. Whereas if we win this trophy, and let's be honest, even with the 8 games in the Champions League, you are really going to be looking at, even at a bad performance, in the league, 70 million. If you don't do great, 60, 70 million, as opposed to 20 million for winning the thing in this competition. Not only that, the amount of money you attract, sponsorship bonuses for being in the Champions League, extra revenue, attracting players, not losing players. Because I think players like Kulu might be looking at
100%
things in the summer and thinking, you know what,
retention of those players,
I'm done with this.
Is possible is fine if you win it. If you don't, some of those players want out. Attracting new players is done. We've spoken about this, right? So there's the on the pitch stuff. Off the pitch, external to Tottenham, you've got Nottingham Forest, who are probably going to be in the Champions League. They've got a near perfect transfer strategy record of the last 12, 18 months. If they have additional funds to spend that they're not used to spending, yes, there's a chance that they might start to become reckless with it. But ultimately, recent history would say, no, they'll spend it well. And they'll become a team that they might struggle in the Champions League because it's just another thing twice a week. But in terms of ability to buy good players that reinforces their general arrival into the conversation, well, that becomes a threat, another threat that we have to compete with. Manchester, if we lose to Bodo and Manchester United beat Bilbao, Man United will beat Bodo in the final and they'll be back in the Champions League and they'll have the money to go again. And then they've got that continuation of their ability to win trophies, even if they're shit. Chelsea aren't going away. How much money are they going to win from the World Club Cup? A lot. It's not good. Not good. I cannot stress enough. I know I don't need to because I know you all know this, but the line in the sand, the difference, the margins for error here are razor thin. If we get this wrong, we will be left behind and we'll be part of another group, the new group of the 5 teams. There'll be the big 5, there'll be the new 4, and then there'll be everyone else. And we'll be part of that everyone else group, I fear, if we don't win it. If Manchester United don't win it and we do, I think they're in a lot of fucking trouble too, Johnny. Yeah. Like, it's such a massive, massive end of the season for both clubs who couldn't have performed worse in the Premier League.
The winner takes it all. It's a massive, massive thing. It really, I don't remember a bigger moment for the club in a long time. You know, sat in 16th, 17th place, no European football, no income, one game a week, always on a Saturday, mainly. And I don't know, it's quite a depressing thought for the year ahead. You know, who are we going to attract as a manager? If you're trying to attract a manager of quality and say to him, well, I'm sorry, there's no money, you'll have to sell players to buy them. That's all right. I'll stay at Bournemouth. It's all right. I'll stay at Brentford, or I'll stay at Bologna. Italiano.
Pochettino changed his mind about wanting to come back to Tottenham if we have to sell some of our best players.
Well, if we can't afford to buy a player, we can't afford to buy him out of his contract. And listen, at the end of the day, it's one thing pissing off a club. It's another thing pissing off a country like America. So I just, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Secretly, I think would love it to happen, but please don't anyone suggest.
Imagine Donald Trump, drone him, with that Tottenham Hotspur. Yep, drone him, just drone him.
Can't believe it.
We're putting up the tariffs, 25%, 15% for Arsenal, 25% for Tottenham.
I could probably manage him. Best manager I've ever been. I think the thing that was mooted by a few people probably 3 or 4 months ago, please don't ever mention it again to me, was that we keep ANGE for one more season just to see it through to when Poch finishes his World Cup duties next summer. But just to say...
Sorry. Just quickly, mate. Just got to... Sorry, finish your point. Sorry, I apologise.
No, I was just going to say, there's only one problem with that. The World Cup doesn't finish till the end of July, and we'll be on our pre-season tours by then. So, that's not going to work.
That is true. Mate, I forgot when we were talking about Ange Postecoglou and his spin, the doctor of spin. The biggest one for me is this new analogy that he's rolling out, right? The stone cutter analogy. right? Where, everyone says that the first 100, that it's the 101st blow that cuts the stone. No, it isn't. It's the 100 that went before it. The 100 that you all think are failed experiments. Actually, without them, the 101st blow doesn't do anything. You know what that really saying? It's a brilliant analogy created by a very, very clever guy with his words. But all that's really saying is I have forever to get this right. And if you sack me, then I'll always say you sacked me on the 100th blow. Yeah. Right? He could be failing for 5 years and still using the stonecutter analogy because we're just not at the 101st cut yet, mate.
He will.
He's figured out. He goes home at night and he's gone, oh, fucking, I've run out of excuses. I can't do Archie Gray anymore. I can't do we had too few games and we got too many games. I can't do the fans don't matter. I can't do. I've run out. I need to. You know what? I need a bulletproof analogy that is old as time itself, and I'm going to find it that can excuse me forevermore.
Listen, he's going to be using.
That'll do.
He's going to be using Conte, Mourinho, Nuno, all great coaches, all failed before me, right? It's
hounded out by the media and the fans.
With me. I'm joining a long line of managers, top managers like myself, who haven't been allowed to operate properly in this club. And I think you need to look upstairs.
Yeah.
God, things are wrong.
You know what, though? Do you know what? Some people hate Daniel Levy so much that when this guy, who's a master of the English language at finding excuses, finding justifications, he will cherry pick the best version of why Daniel Levy's to blame. And it will be like, you know what? From those people that are like staunch Levy outers, you know what? Ange was wrong about everything, but he's absolutely spot on about Daniel Levy. Talking about Daniel Levy, Johnny, I have to ask you this question. I asked John yesterday, and I thought it was a good question, and I want to get your take on it. We know that there's 13 other subsidiaries, right? We know that there's cash. We know Daniel Levy's into this and that, and he wants to do the NFL and the rugby and the concerts and Beyonce, and whether or not he's involved in the intricate details of conditions around stadium rentals, around who can play songs or whatever. If he isn't, he should be. But at the same time, I want to know, I think it's fair to say that the guy's a workaholic, right? I don't think it's unreasonable to probably presume that he works from the moment he gets up until the moment he goes to bed. What I want to know from you is, what percentage of his day or his week do you think that he spends in meetings that are directly related to Tottenham Hotspur's men's team football club?
I think historically, I would say 95%. But I think the bringing in Scott Munn was designed to him to be Levy's Kevlar vest, and for him to take the day-to-day runnings of the club, and he's like the filter. So once a week, he will report to Daniel, and he will say, look, Daniel, Donna, Collicott, and all the board, this is what's happened this week. He will summarise, and then they will discuss it. Whereas I think before he would have been hands-on and everything. I'm not saying he's hands-off, definitely not hands-off, but I think now that he's bought Munn in, who, in my opinion, has been a disaster because he's changed far too many things, in all honesty. And that's why I think Vinny, who had a great reputation, whether you like it or not, he's come from Arsenal, of liaising with fans, dealing successfully with the women's group. I think that Vinny is a massive upgrade on Scott Munn. And I think Levy probably looked at Scott Munn and thought to himself, you know what, this guy isn't good enough. He's given me more headaches. We've never had so many injuries yet. I entrusted with him to overhaul the medical centre, and he's made it worse. I've entrusted him to recruit a manager who's given us the worst record we've ever had. I've entrusted him to recruit this Lang, who was demoted and that hasn't been great either. So he employed Munn to deflect a lot of the work, but in fact, he's probably given him more work than he envisaged or ever wanted. So I still think that is probably far less. I think it's probably about 30% and 70% away from it, 30% everyday running. But I think that that Munn is really the filter, and he gives Levy the update, and then they discuss it, and then Munn implements it. But I think that was how it was meant to be. But as things have started to implode, I think Daniel is taking more and more and more first-hand grip on everything that's going on now. I think that's what he intended at the beginning.
Did he intend that, Johnny?
I think he intended that.
Could you associate what we were saying about like dark arts of 4D chess from ANGE? Yeah. Is there any chance that Levy's playing the same playbook here?
And self-harming, like
not self-harming, and this is a stretch. This is probably
appoint a guy to fuck up the club. No.
So, no. I don't mean to fuck up the club, but appoint a guy that, again, maybe not consciously. I'm not invoking this really. This is all kind of tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but he's been told to take your fucking hands off the steering wheel, Daniel. Okay, I'm employing Scott Munn to take my hands off the steering wheel, but I'm employing a guy that's a cyclist, right? And maybe deep down, it was a little bit of self-sabotage in as much as
he's pedaling around in circles.
And then I can take exactly. Maybe I can take back the steer of the reins and go, see, you didn't want me, but it's better me than that devil, better me than that bozo. You know, I don't know. I don't think that's really the case.
I mean, who is Scott Munn?
You know, mate. We don't know anything about this guy. Like, what are we doing here? Why don't we hear from these people?
Sean, when the ship is sinking, if you're on the ship and the ship is sinking, hello, this is your captain. We are taking water on board, but we're doing everything we can to stabilize the ship. That's what you want to hear, right?
What we're hearing instead is, don't worry. We have got 100 buckets to get the water out. 75 of them have got holes in them, but don't worry.
Instead, we got some fucking guy on the ship, right, who's going, it is what it is, mate. Are you not entertained?
We haven't got enough buckets yet. You know? Let me build the buckets, bro. Let me build the buckets.
Mate. You lot are all fucking negative, mate. You're concentrating on all the negative shit, right? So we're taking on board the water. So we've hit an iceberg.
So the water goes over his head.
So we've hit an iceberg, right? Don't focus on the negatives. You know?
Wait, what do you think of this, Vinny? Is Vinny going to come in and do it? Is he going to disrupt? Is he going to do it? Are you expecting more in the way of fan engagement? What are we expecting from this guy?
Well, listen, I think him and Charrington are notable additions to this board. They give credibility. Vinny, with his background with Arsenal, with his private equity connections, his connections with Saudi Arabia, who's offered a job in Saudi, private equity jobs in America, job with Newcastle. I think from an investment point of view, anyone who's coming in, whether it be Saudi, whether it be Americans, private equity, he gives credibility to the board. So does Charrington, who's been brought on board to head the Enix side of things, who was the former head of Citibank and of Citigroup. So Citibank, should I say. So I think that those two appointments give great credibility to the bank and to the board, and I believe that they will be instrumental in allowing us to actually get inward investment in, because we desperately need it. Because Daniel is not going to be spending his money, and neither will.
He ain't got any money, is he?
Well, he's got none, and neither will the 90-year-old Joe Lewis, who, for all we know, could be pushing up the daisies any day. Who knows where he is? But the stuff's all in trust now. I do find it strange that they haven't pushed to sell because they're, but I wouldn't be surprised whether Victoria, Joe Lewis's daughter, once Joe pops his clogs, doesn't try to push for a sale of her large percentage of the club. Whether or not that's divided up between all the children, grandchildren, I don't know what the division will be. But I would have thought.
I sit there and I contemplate whether or not, in terms of the sale, and I want to come back to Vinny in a minute, because what you just said is essentially off the pitch stuff, right? They're brought in to do that side of it. And I get that's the case with Cherrington. With Vinny, you wonder, yes, he's obviously got a commercial background before Arsenal. He knows finance, so there's overlap. But obviously, you know, most Arsenal fans that are reasonable and balanced reflect on him being a good addition. I mean, there's obviously the kind of the percentage of Arsenal fans that are just always unhappy. You know, unless you win a title, then it's not good enough. Then they're always going to reflect on everybody.
They'll say after 20 years he was nothing to do with Edu signing, nothing to do with Arteta, nothing to do with the fantastic success of the women's team or anything else. All they will talk about is the time he got scammed by a Chinese investment vehicle. That's all they'll talk about.
But I do wonder whether or not, in terms of the sale bit, because I want to come back to Vinny in terms of what can he bring on the pitch, right? What do we expect in that regard? I'll come back to that in a second. But in terms of the off the pitch thing, to sort of round off the sale and the financial side, I wonder whether or not, in terms of getting Levy out of the club for those that want him to go above everything else, I wonder whether or not failure in the Europa League will increase the likelihood or decrease the likelihood relative to winning the Europa League. And I'm not talking about the added pressure from the fans. I'm not talking about the ramping up of change for Tottenham. So I don't think that shit makes a blind bit of difference to him. I'm not saying it's water off a duck's back, but I just don't think any owner has, in the history of football, directly lowered their asking price as a consequence of fan revolt. It just isn't. It's not in their nature, not in their DNA. At least of all, Daniel Levy's, right? He's zero-sum negotiator, right? So it is what it is. But I just wonder whether or not the success or failure of the Europa League, in terms of the valuation of the football club, in terms of the desirability of the football club to a purchaser, changes the narrative and makes it more likely or less likely for a meeting of the minds to find.
Listen, look, let's be honest, Sean. Look, if we don't win it, it's maybe an opportunity for a buyer to pounce, right, and exploit the situation.
Just say, okay, you know what, I want out.
Right, you know, I'm out. Right. On the other hand,
like David Cameron did when he pushed for Brexit, and then as soon as the vote happened, he went, "Oh, fuck this! I ain't dealing with this crap. I'm out of it."
But,
someone else's problem.
And if we do win it, clubs will, owners will still want to be part of the journey now, because they think, oh, hang on, I could be at the bottom of the graph here. I could be at the bottom of the upward cycle here. I want to buy in at the bottom for the journey up.
So is it more likely to get a buyer if we fail or if we succeed?
He will probably. The thing is,
yeah, of course, he'll raise the price.
More likely get his price.
He'll raise the price if we win the Champions League by 300 million quid.
Europa League, you mean?
Yeah, and therefore qualify for the Champions League. Yeah. He'll raise the. He'll say he'll add to the kind of like, here's the benefits.
An extra 70 million for this,
right?
30 events.
So I actually think, not that I want to encourage those people that are Levy outers to do what I heard previously done, which is to, champion bad outcomes to get what you want. But I do actually think that there is some merit to the notion, not from fan pressure related, but from the stresses of taking this forward. I do actually think that a new owner would be more likely to come in and take over this club if we failed than if we won. What do you think?
You could be right. You could be right. You could be right. You could be right. Because, you want to come in, to be the white knight riding in on the horse to rescue the club, don't you? You're in 100%. The shit, you're in the mud. Whatever I do, you finish in 17th place, you lose the final, everything's shit. You got a shit manager, you got no money coming, you got no Europe. It couldn't get any worse. So as a manager, as an owner riding in on your horse, as a white knight, saying, you know what, I'm going to come in and rescue you, going to make it.
Daniel Levy might be like, oh, God, just Jesus.
I'm going to have another year of abuse.
Fucking just give me 3 billion and I'm out of this fucking nasty.
Yeah.
I can't take this anymore.
I believe there's more chance of him selling up.
Yeah, I agree. If
we lose. All right, Geese.
Yeah, fair enough. Have you got to go or?
Well, I've got poker. I've got poker.
Yeah, you got 10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
I had a question.
I have an answer.
Oh no, Vinny. It was Vinny. It's Vinny. What do you see him changing on the pitch?
Well, I think,
or in terms of like
he brought in Arteta, as far as I know, right? And I'm sure someone will come and be corrected. He was involved. He was pictured having talks with Arteta, and I believe he was responsible for Edu. And I also heard that when Vinny left, Edu wasn't overly happy. Listen, you don't stay 20 years at a club and be shit, right? It's as simple as that. I don't believe. Just the same as, Fabio wasn't 10 years at Juventus and not be a top director of football. You don't survive in a big club environment like that for no reason. He has a reputation, as I said before, with liaising with the fans, and that's one thing that's been sorely missing. There, like you said before, the ship's sinking. There's no message coming out. There's no, we're behind Ange. We don't like Ange. If Ange doesn't win in the next 2 games, he's a goner. There's absolute radio silence. All we got to do is watch Daniel Levy sat in his chair every home game, and on the TV's panning to him on the away games when we're getting humped, squirming in his chair. I don't know what's in his mind. I think that there must be something going on right now that we know very little about. And I personally believe that there's something going on behind the scenes, which could mean inward investment, which would mean that, you know what, here you go. I let someone else get on with it. I hope that's the case. I
wonder whether this like
thinking maybe
this condition that's always been on the table until, well, as far as up until now, that any new investment comes in, any new part owner / full owner will require him to have a place on the board and maintain his position as executive chairman or whatever for a period of 5 years, all that stuff. I don't know if his willingness to want to be a part of that is as strong in a world where we finish 17th and trophyless. I just feel like maybe if we win the cup and then go into the Champions League, he's back. He's back. Maybe he's pulling out his super Vertonghen, right?
He's at the front of he's on the front of the celebration bus as it goes down Tottenham High Road.
Fucking, he's got his tie. He's got his tie around his head, slamming back shots.
Yeah.
You know what? Fair enough. Right, he's finally got
on Cullen driving the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see all that, but in a world where we don't do it, I just feel like the motivation might change a little bit. Maybe that condition's off the table. Maybe he'll just take his money and walk away, because I don't know how he recovers from such an abject season, despite 2 semi-finals. I don't know how. I think the fan base will go into. Like I say, I think it's more important for him than it is for Tottenham, and maybe even for the fans, that this season ends with success. And it will be fascinating to see. Johnny, last question I have for you, mate. Considering how much you were so absolutely incandescent with rage about the fact that we painted the stadium red for an hour or two and we played an Arsenal song, is there any part of you that's a little bit like, I don't really want Vinny at the club because he's ex-Arsenal?
No, I think nothing's to do with that. To be honest, no. Okay. I mean, he's been. I didn't have a problem with it. I view that instantaneously as a very good, sensible employment because of his background, right? I mean, Arsenal fans might swing in here and say, "You can have him. He was shit." It's all bluster. It's all bluster. As I said before, you don't stay 20 years. He's been credited with the development of the women's team. He's been credited with his fantastic liaising with fan groups, something that we do not have and never have had, right? This fan advisory board. What a sham that was, I can assure you I'm not getting on it. You know, but I love this club as much as anybody else, right? You know, but I'm not going to get on it because I'm not going to toe the line and just tell them what they want to hear. You know, I'll shoot from the hip.
I would imagine, mate, it's a lot of you don't get a lot of chance to speak. I think it's more.
No, it's yes men, and like, you know, the odd thing.
We're going to feed you some information. Yeah, well, go on then. Just give us your questions. We'll.
Listen, I've got to be honest with you, Sean. If I was in a business meeting, right, and I was in an advisory board situation, I'm not going to be in there screaming and shouting. I'll be putting my point across like I would do in a meeting in a concise manner. The thing is whether or not they'd want to listen to it, because I wouldn't be towing the line. They need people that are going to toe the line on the fan advisory board, which is why, you know, a lot of what's gone on with the change for Tottenham has been about. Look, there's all different. You can't tarnish everyone in change for Tottenham as being the same. They're all different variations. You know, some are, you know, well, I want ANGE. I don't
know everyone at change for Tottenham.
No. I'm talking of a support. No, I'm just talking about the people who want change for Tottenham. Some people,
of course. I would never tarnish anyone with anything.
No, so everyone, you know, I think that. I think
the fan-facing elements of it, mate. The fan-facing elements of it. The man Billy and the other fellow's name, Jay, is it or something? When I've seen them on various channels, on channels that are more neutral, they've said this, which all we want is change. And then I saw them go on to other channels that are more obviously directly related to Levy out. And they've said, look, let's be entirely honest. I'm Levy out. Jay's Levy out. I'm not making any bones about it. We're very much Levy out, as are most of the people at the Change for Tottenham behind the scenes. And I was like, okay, so it's just you can put lipstick on a pig all you want. It's still a pig. It's that you can roll you can't polish a turd, mate. It is.
They're entitled.
Levy out in all but name. And that's fine. It's fine. But don't, in my opinion, try to say one thing.
Listen, you can say Levy out, but still want change. You're right. Listen, I think Levy has been a genius off the pitch, and I think he's been a disaster on it. I've said this for years now, right? You know, I remember going to the demonstrations with Brian Daigle, and I'd turn up early doors, and there'd be 20 people there. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell's going on? What's all this about? And I felt like a bit of an idiot.
I hear you. Change for Tottenham have done a wonderful thing in rebranding a previously associated sort of, not to be disrespectful to some parts of it, but I'll just call it as I think a lot of people would agree with. It has been perceived as toxic negativity at times in the past when it's been called Levy out, right? And so there's this new movement that comes in that is, we're not Levy out, we're Change for Tottenham. And by the way, like 2 years ago, I was brought into a WhatsApp group with all YouTube creators, of which I had videos made about me afterwards by that bozo in America, that ginger donut, who lied, called me a bully, all that nonsense. Right? I won't get into the history of it, but that Change for Tottenham at the time were a brand new unknown entity. They came in, right, and then they dropped out because the whole thing just became infighting. I won't get into the details, but long story short, mate, it doesn't like. I'm not saying you Change for Tottenham shouldn't be Levy out. I'm just saying if you're Levy out, say you're Levy out. Don't pretend like you're something you're not.
They do. Sean. I've been at every demo, mate, right? They walk down the high street, mate. Right? They walk down the high street, right? And they're shouting Levy out, right? So when you say what you think, but not everybody is such Levy out. Some of them genuinely want change, i.e., they want some of the concessions to come back. They want the cup guarantee scheme to come back. They're all different strengths of what they want for change. Not everyone is the extremist, right? Let's go down and
facing the representations of the captain of the movement.
Listen.
No, Johnny, let me finish.
He's not running around saying, "Guess go and burn the house down."
You interrupt me. The representations of the captains of the movement are: we're not Levy out when they go on neutral channels, and when they go on Levy out channels, we are Levy out. Don't treat people like donuts. Be sincere. That's all I'm saying. Be sincere with it. Say what you feel, but don't say one thing here and one thing there. Just be real. Because you treat people like mugs if you're being disingenuous.
I think they are being real because I personally don't hear a different message. That's me personally. when I see them, when we go on Ricky's show, I'm in on Ricky's show straight after when we come back from Bodo on the Friday. What will be left of me on the Friday? I don't know what will be left, but they will be talking about the
not a lot, mate. Not a lot, though.
Not a lot, right? But we'll be talking about the Crystal Palace, the demonstration for Crystal Palace. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, but it'll just be a conversation. It won't be a rant. It won't be a thing. If you want to support it, support it. And if you don't, that's your prerogative. Again, everyone's allowed to have their opinion.
100%. I support I've been to the protest. I support them, right? Yeah. I'm not in any way challenging any of that. Do what you got to do. I'm just saying that the fan-facing representations of that movement, i.e. the captains or vice captains, I think it looks disingenuous when you go on one channel and you say, we're all Levy out, right? We're all Levy out. But then on another channel, you say, we're not all Levy out. This is change.
Well, listen, look,
Billy, which is it? Which is it? That's what I'm saying. Which is
it? I've found Billy 100% consistent.
I really like the guy when I met him. I really liked him. He was a really good guy.
Lyndon, is more of the leader, I think, with Christina and what have you. But it just so happens with Billy, with like 120,000 followers on Twitter, has a bigger voice, and therefore I understand, why he does it. Anyway, listen, I'm not going to be drawn into this now. Let's finish on a high.
You just have been drawn into it, bro. You can't. You're already in the boat, mate.
No, you drew me into it. It's something I don't want to get involved in.
It's not a criticism. It's an observation. I'm saying, just be sincere, be consistent. Consistency is all I ever asked for. I don't care how you feel.
That's how you call it, and you're entitled to call it. I'm just saying, personally, I haven't seen that, because obviously I've been on shows where we're talking about the protests and the change. I've been on with Billy and Christina, and Ricky, last word on Spurs. So, but listen, everyone has a different opinion. I would say that very much like how most people were very supportive of ANGE and have now changed. A lot of people who never really commented on Levy, they couldn't be asked, they now, because of Levy's inactivity in sacking ANGE, they are now angry with Daniel for not acting sooner and rescuing this situation at a much earlier date, prior to Christmas, after the Liverpool game. So there's been a lot of that sort of, I'm not saying there's anger, they want him out, but they're angry with him for not having acted, which is a different thing again, which is, a lot of fans are angry who aren't sort of Levy out, that Daniel, they can't understand why Daniel's allowed this to go on and on and on and on and on for months, and feel like Ange should have been removed of his duties months ago.
Just quickly, mate. You're saying you've never heard them say that they're entirely Levy out, and Swanix is saying that all he's heard them say is that they are Levy out. Right? That is a perfect demonstration.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
No. So this is more aimed at you. This is more aimed at Swanix. Sean, back up with argument with evidence. There's evidence right there. You're saying all you've heard is Levy out. Johnny's saying that's not all he's heard. And if you want my experience, I was on Last Word on Spurs in the week leading up to the first protest. I was on Last Word on Spurs with Billy T, and on that show, he wasn't representing Levy out. He was representing Change for Tottenham as a movement to do better, not a movement to remove the owner. So you want me to give you evidence? There's evidence. You can go and look into it yourself, Swanix. Okay. All right. I don't care. Again, I don't care. I don't care what you are, but just don't.
No, you're not listening to what I'm saying here, right? What I'm saying to you is that people who would never normally comment on Daniel, I've never seen go Levy out, Enoch out, and all of that, they're not suddenly going Levy out. I'm saying these people, right, moderates who don't normally comment about such a thing, are messaging me, whether it's on WhatsApp or DM me, saying, what the fuck is Levy doing? Is he asleep? What's the matter with him? Is he selling the club? And they're pissed off because they don't understand Why is he still there? Why is he not action? Why has he not said anything? All the things that we brought up here. But he might not be Levy out.
No, you
but
can't say
unrest.
the answer to that is obvious, right? You can't talk about a disclosure that's got NDAs attached to it if you're in the middle of a conversation, right? You can't do those sorts of things. The answers don't require a movement to clarify. The answers to that are just it's legal binding agreements, documents that don't require a movement. They just require someone to go out there and understand how things work in business.
I'm talking about just fans who don't normally comment.
I'm literally just not combating. I'm responding to your argument. You're saying fans are saying, why hasn't he said anything? Why hasn't he done this? Why is he still there? Right? And you're giving anecdotal evidence, and I'm just saying anecdotally.
These aren't people. These aren't your bog standard Levy for everything, right? These are people that don't normally comment, right?
And in the anecdotal evidence that you just gave me,
it doesn't mean they're Levy out, Sean, right? But they're showing anger towards Daniel Levy for allowing us and the club that they love to plummet to these depths. Now,
that's fine. If change for Tottenham means that, right? But if it doesn't, if it really is a rebranding of Levy out, then they're not really being represented, are they? They're being sucker punched into something else.
I'm not saying that these people will join the movement, right? I'm not saying they will.
You're moving the goalpost of your point every time I come back to you.
I'm not moving it, Sean. I'm just commenting on the fact that people, they don't turn up at the change for Tottenham. I'm talking about people who don't turn up for any of it, right? Who don't normally comment. That's a sidebar issue. All I'm saying is I'm surprised how many people in the last 3 or 4 weeks have been messaging me saying, what is going on? How is he still in a job? What is wrong with Levy, right? And these aren't people, if you were there singing Levy out, they'll be going, what's all that about? That's a load of crap, right? That's what I'm trying to say to you, that there are a lot of people who are not happy with the situation and how Daniel's allowed this to carry on. But they're not Levy out.
Correlation. A lot of that goes away. And as I said earlier, a lot of that, the Johnny come latelys, exactly. A lot of that, the Johnny come latelys to any movement will walk back across the aisle the second that this problem goes away. It's the people that are embedded in their beliefs that will champion things like relegation or cup failure because the movement is more important, even though the movement was based on the fact that we don't win enough trophies. And that to me is where I struggle. But either way, as I say, my only point is, and it's not a criticism, it's an observation. It's just, I believe that you win more, like you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? And I think that I've always said this to people who I don't necessarily get on with. I said, you guys are missing a trick. You're telling people that are in the middle, the moderate fan, that they're the problem. If you want people to join you, welcome them over, which is what Change for Tottenham did. But Change for Tottenham, if it's Change for Tottenham and that includes all change, including the owner doing better, then that's great. That's fine. But if you are really Levy out, but you're trying to hoodwink people into thinking that you're not, and that your Change for Tottenham really means do better or move on or whatever, and it's all encompassing, that's great. But when you hear the fans that represent the captains of that movement in the online space say we're Levy out, that to me is a little bit disingenuous. It's inconsistent. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't mean I don't support the protests. I was always at every one, and I will continue to go because I think it's, I'm happy to. I want the club to do better as well. I want change. I want better than what we're doing, of course. And I'm happy for the owner to leave, as long as I know what that looks like. As long as I know who's going to come in and what their plan is.
Jim Ratcliffe, right?
Don't want Jim Ratcliffe. I don't want any of the US entities. If I'm entirely honest, I don't want any of the private capital boys. I think all of those things are problematic. I think all of those
buyouts. I don't want a leverage.
I don't want leverage buyout. I don't want highly leveraged. I don't want debt-based takeovers. The only thing really for me that is better than a more ready to be ambitious version of Daniel Levy, who I think is so wildly misrepresented on so many of the things that are massively more important than people just give lip service to. He's a good businessman, but I think that's not a businessman, but it's, he's a good businessman, and that stuff is super important. But other than Daniel Levy, as in his current vision, his current version of himself, which is risk averse and can't take his hands off the reins, all of those things are massive problems that need to be changed. And I think that there is as much risk in new unknown entities that come from the West, come from America, that are debt-based intentions, that are looking for an exit before they get their entry point. I think those things are just as terrifying, if not more terrifying. I'm happy to see something else come in. The options are few and far between, Johnny. We can discuss this until the cows come home. I'm just saying, if you are the captain of a movement, just be consistent, because I think it's a little bit inconsistent, to be honest.
Right.
But anyway, mate.
A megalomaniac can never let go of the reins, and there lies the problem, I feel. But as for another day, Sean, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Love you, man.
As always.
Massive thank you to everyone. There's been about 700 people here across the various things, 800 people at times. Really appreciate everyone stopping by. Let us know in the comments whether you think that Ange Postecoglou is sabotaging some of our young talent in order to justify his own mistakes. Let us know what you think about C for T in the bottom in the comment section afterwards. Massive thank you to those who put the super chats in. Blaine Devlin, Destiny, Dermatron, Destiny again. Tony Rodriguez, didn't see this one. Sorry, mate. Remember 12 months. Thank you, Tony. Get Ange out tonight. He's clueless and totally out of his depth. And end of discussion. Appreciate the super chat. Didn't see it. Sorry, mate. And also Eugene as well. Great to see you boys back constantly. Thank you, guys, consistently. Thank you very much. Guys, please get over to Football Inc. and Sean Butler TV. The YouTube channel's there in the link down there in the description. And also get over to Johnny H's socials. There he is, that side. Johnny H2322 on Twitter. And Insta's Talking Tottenham 1882, as found also on TikTok, where he's blowing it up. He's blowing it up. 2.2 million people are familiar now with Johnny H's terrible takes on boxing. And we will leave it there. Johnny, I love you, man. I'm only kidding. I'm winding you up.
Right,
like, subscribe, and comment, guys.
You can't be on Twitter without taking abuse and all that comes with it. Right? Water off the duck's back now. All right, guys. Thanks for having us. Thanks for putting up with us. And see you soon. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs. Bye-bye.